lub spodęła na mnie luka. To moje życie, a nie jakaś bania luka. Metronom w głowie jedno tempo sobie stuka. Nagle wryta staje i na ciebie lukam. Ja i ty, to tak jakby mały tune skład. Ty masz tę charyzmę, a ja urok mam. Zatańczymy razem, nie stój dłużej sam. To życie jak z bajki Lola, Bunny, Bunny Bugs. Lecę jak Lola w kosmicznym meczu. Flow Leosia, melodia jak Kate Bush. Lecę jak w kosmicznym meczu Michael. Widzę cię, wciągnąłeś mnie w bajkę. Jak Jordan.
Isn't that lovely? That's our local girl, a 16-year-old I saw singing on the bandstand practicing with her father. We're not 100% sure if it's Leah by Jordan or Jordan by Leah, but it's a lovely sound, and we'll put a link up to it and play it again at the end of the track, at the end of the day of our little chat. So hello everybody, it's Friday, it's 1 o'clock. I'm PR Smith, founder of author of Sustack Planning, and I'm delighted to say I got Reggie Johnson from beautiful Fort Worth, Texas, USA. Morning, Reggie.
Good morning.
And we got Wayne Denner, who is our safe tech educator, saving lives everywhere he goes. Good old Wayne Denner from Warren Point, County Down. How are you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing great, Paul. Hello, Reggie. The sunshine is out in all its glory here on Carlingford Lough, Paul.
Oh,
Wonderful.
Yeah, maybe send us a little photo and we'll post it in the notes as well. Yeah, that would be nice, because it really is. Carlingford Lough is stunningly beautiful, and it separates the north from the south of Ireland, doesn't it?
We do, and we have our bridge coming very soon, which is going to span from Warren Point to Omeath. So you'll be able to walk and drive across the lough now to the other side, and I think that's about 2 years away. So,
who's funding that? Is that the
it's actually the Irish government funding. I think 90% of it, with a little bit coming from the Northern Ireland Executive. It's a really exciting time. They've got all of the foundations in, and the next part of it is the parts for the bridge coming from Belgium up the lough, which is going to be a fantastic sight to be seen.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we've got a busy session today. We're going to be talking about 35 minutes to TikTok addiction, no less, followed by Trump fake avatars actually forcibly changing opinions when people don't even realize it. We'll talk about the pervert glasses from good old Meta, released during the war. And then something about Facebook funding a Fear of China campaign. Could this be true? Yes. Could it be true? Well, let's find out. Palantir are in the news once again, and there is disruption and disgust in the UK about the £330 million contract, the NHS National Health Service contract. They're going to go take it to court now, so it's going to get ugly. And quite right too, in my opinion. We'll also look at OpenAI whistleblower sudden death. Now, we've talked about this before, and this guy has been called by his father the Robin Hood of our era. I'll explain that later on. We'll also look at the dangers of a new, Wayne discovered this, TikTok are doing AI remixes of all your content without you knowing. So we need to alert you how to stop that should you choose to do so. And then we'll finish on a positive note, the living with integrity and the importance of kindness, and the video of the week. So let's kick off with 35 minutes to become a junkie of TikTok. Is this possible, Wayne? Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, this is from leaked documents on a teen safety lawsuit where the company was aware of the fact that young people, and indeed users, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, were becoming addicted to the platform. And what it said was it was taking maximum 35 minutes of use of TikTok, scrolling through videos, interacting with the platform, looking at content for a user to become, and the key word here is meaningfully hooked, highlighting how quickly the algorithm can suck people into the platform, can engage them, and can keep them there for as long as possible. And according to this particular lawsuit and information circulating at the moment, the platform TikTok were aware of this. And this is why we're starting to see more and more of these lawsuits. I suppose most recently Facebook in a similar situation in relation to a young person who became hooked on its platform. Yes. And the design elements and the nature of how the platforms are being developed to keep people there.
Wow. So TikTok's own research has confirmed this. Compulsive usage, I think, is a term that they can. Compulsive usage correlates with loss of analytical skills.
It's really important to keep in mind. TikTok obviously are going to say that, you know, that they dispute these claims, of course, anything at the moment, but they're saying that the information is being taken out of context a lot of the time and
Uh,
does not reflect current practices within the organization.
we shall see. But I think it's a whistleblower. Somebody's got this out from TikTok's own
Yeah,
research. Yeah.
exactly.
So their own research says compulsive usage correlates with loss of analytical skills, memory formation, contextual thinking, conversational depth, empathy, the ability to empathize. That's really worrying if you can't have a feeling for somebody else's feelings.
And
And
that's the worrying one for our young people, Paul. You know, if our young people are being on these platforms, they're losing that ability to empathize with other people, and that's a real big concern, especially in my work in schools at the moment.
yeah,
How our children are being desensitized a lot of the time.
desensitized. That's the
You
word.
know, what's interesting is some people say that, like, well, every new media innovation is immediately decried as potentially immoral and the end of decent society. But I know that the printing press actually helped to increase empathy, because when novels became widely available, they said that it allowed people to put themselves in somebody else's shoes in a
Yes,
way that they hadn't before. And so it
yes,
increased empathy. Now, I don't know, maybe people said the same thing about television in terms of you know, addictiveness and whatnot.
yeah,
But it is definitely, when you've got the algorithms and the power of those, it
yeah.
certainly is on a whole new level. One thing, we had one commenter here, Calvin O'Dara, had asked us to share a link of the study of the addictive tendency of TikTok. If you'd be willing
Yes,
to share
yes.
that in the comments later on, you'd love the link.
Okay, now we've been multitasking to different things, but we will, Callum, most definitely put it on prsmith.org/blog. And if we can, between one of the, maybe if you've got access there, Reggie, if you got a moment, maybe you could try and squeeze it up. But we'll definitely put links to everything on prsmith.org/blog. I heard the phrase that the TikTok entire market is designed to exploit human cognitive weaknesses at scale. And that's just frightening, really, isn't it? You know? And more of that, Reggie, Trump, fake avatars, waves of fake avatars influencing people without them realizing it. Now, this has happened before, goes way back to the Obama. And not saying Obama did, but there was stuff going on back then. But this is a bigger scale. What's going on with Trump and fake avatars?
Well, the New York Times had a really interesting report that said that social media is being flooded with pro-Trump AI avatars, AI accounts that are a person that is actually just generated by AI. They say that you can tell it's AI by some of the things, the way that the words don't line up, the little glitches. It's fake. But the research shows a lot of users think they're real. They comment in the comments. Of course, I don't know how many of those users commenting are real people versus
Yeah,
AI.
yeah,
But here's the thing: it's designed, when they talk to, like, you know, political scientists, it's designed to create a false sense of consensus ahead of midterms, where Trump's party is expected to lose some seats. To see suddenly, they had analyzed like 304 different accounts that were getting, you know, 25,000 total followers, and some posts had over 500,000 views. And they were talking about the radical left, which is something that Trump likes to label anybody who's left of where his position is, and also about the America First kind of stuff. So talking basic Trump stuff, and but they're purely AI fabricated in order to create a false sense of consensus, to make you think. Because if you think that you're the only one who believes in a certain thing, or that you're more open to disconfirmation. But if you think everyone around you believes this, you're more open. Maybe that's the right way. You know, this study where they had a person come into a room with 10 other people. They had 3 lines on a chalkboard. One of them was clearly longer than the others. And they asked all the people to say which was the longest, right?
yeah.
This was a classic study. And they had each person through the room go through, and they all said it was the wrong one. They said the longest line is line 2, when it was clearly line 1, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying the wrong answer because they're in on the study, but the person number 10 doesn't know that. So by the time they get to person number 10, if persons 1 through 9 have said the wrong answer, they will almost invariably give the wrong answer.
Ooh,
Everybody else has said it. So the idea is peer pressure.
peer pressure, yeah.
When everybody else sees things a certain way, we tend to assume that's correct, even if our eyes
Yeah.
tell us otherwise.
Oh my goodness, that is awful. That really is awful. So we're going to get floods and floods and floods of pro-Trump stuff, which isn't true, but because we behave like sheep sometimes, that's very worrying. By the way, I should say to Calvin, my apologies. I called you Calvin there. Calvin, greetings to you. We'll try and get that up in the notes for you. Now, I want to look at something else quite worrying that's popped up. Wayne, Meta pervert glasses. Now, I know Dr. Jeffrey Funk has written this piece, but what can you summarize? What's this about?
Yeah, this isn't overly new because these
Yeah.
smart glasses have been around for some
Mm.
time now. And I've had a few concerns from a risk perspective in terms of people being recorded without their consent and glasses being used maybe in sensitive locations where people aren't aware that the location's being recorded. But Meta is reportedly working on a new feature for its smart glasses called Name Tag. And the worrying thing about this is, and the extension of what it already is able to do, is it would use facial recognition technology to identify people and provide information about them through an AI assistant. So think about that for a moment. The idea has sparked strong backlash from, of course, civil liberties and human rights groups, and indeed those of us in the safeguarding space. I suppose the concerns I have is, the technology might feel really, really convenient and fun to use, but where do we think about the consent element in all of this? If you're walking about, if you're in sensitive locations, if you're in schools or places like this, and you're recording people without them even realizing that it's happening, is that crossing the line?
Yeah.
Who gets to use this technology? And what we've seen already is it's becoming very, very mainstream. Think of stalkers and scammers, those types of people. And then are we on a slippery slope, Paul, to normalizing mass surveillance?
Mass surveillance, yeah, it's scary stuff. Although the Romans used to have, there was a word for it in the Roman Empire days. They used to have a prompter who walked behind the big official person, and he'd just whisper in their ear the name of people coming at them. And I would love that service, but apparently glasses can do that. They'll say, "Oh, there's if I've forgotten Reggie's name, I see him on the street after 10 years." It'll say that's Reggie Johnson. Now I'd welcome that, but to do that, it has to record Reggie's face and put that into the system, and so it is surveillance. So, yeah, no, there's a fear of abuse of that. That's worrying, and I believe there's people having intimate sex, for want of another word, having intimate relationships, and they've left the glasses on, and it's recording, and so the checkers the next day have to look at all this video, sift through it, decide.
And
Yeah.
even the current glasses as they currently stand do have a flashing light so people can see if you're recording. But I've
Oh,
seen a couple of videos on TikTok and a couple of videos on the internet where
yeah.
people have been able to disable those lights within the Meta glasses. So remove the flashing light element and it just looks like a standard glass, take it out, and then people don't know that you're actually recording. So again, even though Meta have put something in place to alert people that this is going on,
Yeah.
users are finding ways to turn it off and disconnect it.
Well, more shenanigans, I'm afraid. This next story is about Facebook funds a Fear of China campaign. Now, this is written by Stephen Klein, and he's asked the question: has anybody seen the American Edge TV commercials, the ones where they warn you that China is winning the AI race and America needs to act and act now? And he asked the question, well, who do you think's paying for those expensive TV commercials? Guess who, he says? Facebook. So Meta have donated $38 million to the American Edge project between 2019 and 2021. And basically, when Congress is moving towards serious antitrust reforms or bills that would force Facebook to compete fairly, then Facebook or Meta start funding a fake grassroots coalition. So we've just been talking about fake influencers and avatars. Now, fake ads coming from a fake organization, a fake grassroots coalition wrapped in the American flag, and they start running TV commercials about China. And the message is, don't regulate us because China's watching. And it's not a patriotic argument. It's a protection racket, says Stephen Klein. So the same company that dismantled its own ethics team, that laid off thousands whilst posting record profits, that ran its own separate ads saying we support updated internet regulations, Well, at the same time, they're killing those regulations. It's appalling, really, what's going on there.
It's disgusting, especially when you consider that China is regulating AI in a much more responsible way than the United States is.
Yeah, I think it is by what we can hear. Indeed, they're stopping young people having too much access to it. Yeah, good for them. They don't always get fairly reported, in my opinion. But another story about a lack of competition, because this is killing competition if they deregulate and say the big boys can continue to do whatever they want. More on competition and the Palantir story of this big National Health Service contract. Well, it's big in the UK, £330 million is a lot of money for an NHS National Health Service contract run by Palantir. I don't know if it ever went out for bidding. I don't think it was put out there for bidding. And somehow Palantir got this contract, and now people have been objected, doctors have been objected, the British Medical Journal objected, and now it's going to court. Tell me this is true, Reggie.
It is true. The organization Democracy for Sale, which is obviously meant to be an ironic point about how democracy shouldn't be for sale, is taking them to court because they've asked for some documentation around this. You know, it's been pointed out that Palantir is not a healthcare organization. What are they doing with their hands in NHS and with people of Great Britain's data, personal health data? They're a military surveillance company run by Peter Thiel. Isn't he the one who said that people that want to regulate AI are part of the Antichrist in his manifesto about a tech oligarchy being the way forward?
Oh.
And that, again, doesn't he draw on the language of it's going to be essentially an authoritarian regime either way, and we might as well have our version of it rather than China's version of it? Is that all from his manifesto?
Yeah.
That's his company, funding his company, Palantir. Again, military surveillance company, been given a contract, $330 million, pounds, for NHS. And some people in Great Britain, doctors, administrators, everybody is concerned. Why is Palantir, why would we trust them? The company with such a poor record in technology that's so poor as far as security of data. Why are they being trusted with people's personal health information? Well, the British government would not provide the information that Democracy for Sale applied to receive, and they think that we deserve transparency. So good for them. They're taking it to court. They're saying we need documentation on this. We want to know what the specific document said that gave them this contract and what was going on behind the scenes. And some of these details, in order to find out why were they given this contract and how does that make sense, because we need transparency. We need to know what the reasons are, because it doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface and it's very concerning.
Yeah, we've talked about Palantir many times before, their involvement in Israel and so on. Also, there is Alex Sharp. We've talked about him before, the CEO, where he says America's enemies should fear death. I'm thinking, what kind of a CEO speaks like that? Just strange stuff, really strange stuff. More strange stuff comes in the story we raised, was it 6 months or a year ago, when we talked about Suchir Balaji, who exposed OpenAI's data abuses, and suddenly he was dead. Now this I'm calling the death of Robin Hood. Well, his father calls it the death of Robin Hood. He was an AI whistleblower. Now this piece is written by Jacob Silverman in The Nation, but it's resurrected himself again, and I'm pleased to hear it, that it's back in the press. So just to recap, Suchir Balaji was a very, very clever guy. Went to Berkeley University and all the rest of it. And he exposed OpenAI's data abuses and exposed it and shared it with the New York Times. And then, that was 23rd of October, 2024. Then, a month after the Times published the interview with him, he was found dead. And under very, very strange circumstances. It was deemed to be suicide when his parents say absolutely wasn't. There's blood all over the place and there's entry points couldn't have. The shot that killed him wasn't something you do yourself. The angle didn't add up, and they've had various stops and start. But what Suchir actually said was that OpenAI have broken copyright laws by absorbing practically all available data on the internet for its models, to train its models. And he actually said, if you believe what I believe, you simply have to leave the company. That's what he told the Times. And a month later, the poor fella is dead, 26 years of age, and he's dead. Now, his mother and father have been campaigning for him and to have it reopened again and looked at. Here's a real twist in it. It's more than an impressive scoop for the New York Times. It's also a key element in a copyright infringement lawsuit between, guess who? The New York Times and OpenAI. Now, if the paper were to succeed, and Balaji was listed as a potential witness, it could open the door to numerous similar actions against OpenAI, just like the other cases we're seeing. There's going to be a flood coming in their wake. Now, here's the twist. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Elon Musk, who was one of the company's co-founders, have become mortal enemies. Okay, these guys really want to do each other in. And the two are embroiled in a lawsuit based on Musk's belief that OpenAI's transformation into a for-profit structure will contribute to the untrammeled development of artificial general intelligence, which may doom humanity. So there's the argument the boys are having. Now, it's getting nasty between the two lads. Musk will apparently do anything to crush Altman. He even said on X, he was murdered. Musk has said that on X. Now, where it gets really ugly is, we're looking at two guys who are going to go to war with each other in the courts. It's an AI war that's going on. And Balaji happens to be in the middle of it, and he might well be used or served in this. But, it's, I don't know, it's kind of worrying that it's only coming to terms that because one arch enemy of another will flag it up. But if it does, it's better than not. And as I say, his father referred to him as the Robin Hood of high tech. He actually stood up for those that, and wrong when he saw it. And his mother said something that I find really interesting. She said, so whistleblowers' lives don't matter, do they? We're ready to lose whistleblowers. And she said, I don't know how I could have saved my son by teaching him to tell lies. The ethics with which I raised him took his life today, she said, the day he died. So she's saying his ethics and his standing up saying, this is theft at a massive scale. This is wrong. We should got to stop this. And bang, he's dead. So he stood up and was counted, unfortunately, by an assassin. So we keep an eye on the Suture Balaji and his mother and father's case, trying to keep it at the forefront of our minds.
And just a quick reminder that Tucker Carlson, who's often associated with right-wing media and often disinformation, to be honest, in America, he's associated with that. He actually has taken up the cause. You remember some interviews he did with Suture Balaji's mom, and then it was his interview with Sam Altman that I thought was the most uncomfortable to watch, because I felt like it really made Altman look extremely guilty. I mean, he
was sweating, wasn't he?
He was sweating, and he did not address things. He weaseled his way out of questions. He never seemed comfortable, and it just made him look more guilty than if he hadn't done the interview.
Absolutely right. We actually did review the original interview with the mother, with Tucker, as you say, who is deemed to be right wing, but it was a very fair interview, I thought. And so when we had our friend kind of step up, the CEO of Sam Altman, he didn't do himself justice there at all. Now, I'm going to come back to living with integrity as a final positive note before we finish. But before I do, just want to flag up something that Wayne thankfully flagged up. And people, if you're on TikTok, you need to be aware of this. Wayne, AI remixing your stuff, your content.
Well, we have a bit of good news since I put that video out in the past couple of days. It looks that TikTok have rolled back on that feature because it is no longer available. But in short, TikTok rolled out a feature earlier this week, which was toggled on by default across every user's video on the platform, which basically give AI permission to remix the content. Now, whenever I seen this turn up on my own account, I went across and I read TikTok's terms of service to see was there any update in there, and that's really important for people to do. And I couldn't find anything relating to that. So it seemed they just turned it on and didn't update any T's and C's. And maybe they were just testing the water to see what users' reaction was going to be. It blew up on the internet. Lots of creators were talking about leaving the platform, myself included. And what you had to do was you had to manually turn this off on each and every video that you uploaded to the platform. So if you had hundreds or thousands of videos, it would have taken you days to turn it off. But here's the worry about it. It was even turned on in private and draft videos. That in itself is shocking.
Tell us what's a private video.
So if you've recorded something like in a draft that you don't want to share with anybody, you just, you've recorded it and you've got it sitting in your draft folders. It's not gone public. It's just there. The setting was actually enabled on the draft videos as well when I went in and I took a look. Now, I checked just in the past couple of hours when I woke up this morning, TikTok have rolled back and they have removed all trace of that AI setting within the privacy settings of the video.
Just to scare us a bit more.
Disturbing that rather than testing a new feature, they're testing whether users will accept this new form of theft.
According to them, and according to certain reports, they've said that they meant to test it with a small batch of users and they didn't intend to roll it globally. The reality of it is it was available globally.
Yeah. Wow. And remixing, just so everybody understands the term, it sounds friendlier than it is, but it could take your voice, your face.
Yes, that's it, Paul. That's the worry about it now. There was no clear, definitive what the purpose of it was. As I said, there was nothing in the terms of service that I could see relating to that. So nobody was really sure what it was going to do. But my understanding of it would be that it could use your face, your voice, your likeness, video content, and it could put you in a position where you said something or you've been in a video of something that never actually happened.
Or AI slop. Maybe they're just trying to create AI slop so they don't have to pay creators or share any funds.
What's your little word you came out with?
Slopaganda. That's what our information ecosystem is full of slopaganda.
Yeah. I see Robin Davis has made a comment here. I've half created a skill to check T and C's and security features. Now that would be useful. Still needs quite a bit of work though. Okay, Robin, when you have polished it up a bit, let us know. And
it's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so keep working on that one and we'll support you on that, Robin. Okay, still we're going to finish now on something positive, and that is integrity, living with integrity. So we're going to post a video from a wonderful person by the name of a youngish man, Randolph Frederick Pausch. Now it's a 4-minute video and it's show it to everybody you can because it's just fantastic, kids and adults. This is a poor fella who was given a death sentence that he had 3 to 6 months to live with an extreme cancer. I think it was pancreatic. And, he had young kids, 3 kids, I think. He was only 47. But he decided he'd use his last few months for positive purposes. And he gave an upbeat lecture called The Last Lecture, Really Achieving Your Childhood Dreams. And it was at Carnegie Mellon University, a famous institution. And he published a book which became of the same name, The Last Lecture, and became a New York Times bestseller. And he made just a few points I'm going to mention. He said, never, ever, and he used that ever, never, ever underestimate the importance of having fun. And, we like to have a little laugh in our chat here as well. And I think it's important to let go and have a chat and a laugh from time to time. And he says, and if you want to achieve your dreams, work and play well with others. Live with integrity. Tell the truth. And then he said, simple advice that you'll find hard to follow. And then he said, I don't think complaining and whining solves problems. So he says, if you live your life the right way, with this kind of integrity he was talking about, the karma will take care of itself. The dreams will come to you. So it's a really beautiful video, and alas, he's no longer with us, but he's left behind his spirit. Randolph Frederick Pausch's wonderful video. I urge people to have a look at that and share it and pass it on to everybody you can. It's really terrific. And part of integrity, or aligned to integrity, is of course kindness. And it happens to be the 4th and final day of the Kindness Counts campaign that will start off by just a small number of people. But it reminded me of Eleanor Roosevelt, who once said, with the new day comes new strengths and new thoughts. So why not add a new kindness moment to your day? Hashtag it as hashtag kindness counts. And it runs from the 20th to the 24th of April. So today it's final day. Lighten up the world with some kindness and record it and share it with everybody. And it's organized by All We Can, and organized a small group called All We Can. So you can have a little look for All We Can, and they talk about the importance of kindness. So we'll put something in there, that's for sure. Okay. In fact, I'm going to post a video in with the notes which is arguably the most beautiful animation you might see. It won all sorts of awards, and it's all about kindness, and it does wake us up, little things, small things, and it's wonderful. And the reason why we're talking about this, and I know this chat is about AI innovation and ethics in business and in life and so on and so forth, but something's gone astray, I feel, from a few years ago when people had more morals, perhaps. There were strong mission statements. There was sort of an ethics was important, integrity was important, honor was important, and somehow along the way it seems to be taking a hammering recently. So it's nice to see these small little events, but when they catch more and more momentum, it does catch the eye. Like our local coffee shop, which says kindness is the new superpower, which is just a great way of looking at life, I think. We're 1 minute before, which is good because we've been trying to get in within the 30 minutes. I'm going to stop there. We'll post everything on prsmith.org/blog. Yeah, do have a look in there, and links to everything we talked about will be in there, including the song that we are going to finish with. Any last words, Reggie or Wayne?
I have a great quote that I want to leave people with when it comes to AI, and it's from Ronald Reagan, one of the former presidents. Trust but verify.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. Well, okay, let's call it a day at that because it's just 1:30. We do like to finish, so we'll continue with Leah by Jordan, or Jordan by Leah. We're her lovely voice, one Polish lady. Hope you all have a great weekend. So we'll see you.
Ale bryzę słoną chłonąć. Lubię tak, że są wakacje, więc siedzę nad wodą. Choć na co dzień Londyn, to w Polsce mam wszystko. Tutaj jest mój dom, tutaj jest moje boisko. Muzyka to most i jak w San Francisco. Jadę nim do ciebie, zróbmy widowisko. Lecę jak Jordan, już nie jak jakiś motyl. Kot w mojej głowie to już chyba dzikie koty. Taktyka się wymyka, no bo sen mój to ty. Chcecie rozszyfrować, myślę tylko o tym. Lecę jak Jordan, już nie jak jakiś motyl. Kot w mojej głowie to już chyba dzikie koty. Taktyka się wymyka, no bo sen mój to ty. Chcecie rozszyfrować, myślę tylko o tym. Lecę jak Lola w kosmicznym meczu. Flow Leosia, melodia jak Kate Bush. Lecę jak w kosmicznym meczu Michael. Widzę cię, ciągnąłeś mnie w bajkę. Jak Jordan.
See you guys.